Hi, today we're going to be looking at moving the power switch for a Fender Excelsior. These were popular back, well, not popular, I guess they're still popular, but they were sold back in the, probably around 2010, something like that. You can look that up. But it's not a bad amp. I'm kind of getting used to it, but it was kind of inconvenient to use for a couple things. One was I did the tone switch mod, tone control mod, which helps a lot, and took out the bright and whatever that was called, bright and something else, bright and bass, I guess what was called. Took out that switch and replaced the tone pod, or put a tone pod in there, and that's a reversible fix. The other thing was I liked the breakup on it, but it was got too loud in my studio. So I do have an attenuator in here, and that's a real easy take out and plug back into the regular, direct into the speaker thing. So we won't really talk about those two modifications, but the one that I think keeps me from using it the most is this power switch that's down here at the bottom, and I keep this on the floor, and it's so inconvenient to, it's kind of buried behind some stuff too. That's the way my studio's set up. So to get this thing to turn on, I've got to kind of fight my way back to it, and then, you know, reach my arm behind all this stuff and then flip it up, and then off you go. And I thought, well, this is kind of a pain. So what I want to do is not bypass the switch, but wire it so when this is on, this will be the easiest way to wire it. So this will be like a master on and off, if you want to look at that. So when the power switch is on, it'll actually send signal, send power up to an on-off switch. Let me see if you can see that or not. There's just a little toggle on-off switch. Okay, get those anywhere. And that'll be what actually I'll use for the most part to turn this off and on, and so I'm keep pointing up here because that's where I want to put the bracket for it. So I got this bracket. Actually, I got both these at Menards. This is this is over in the framing section in case you're interested in getting this particular type of thing. And what I'll do is I'll be drilling a hole through here with a step drill, so it's big enough to hold this thing. I don't know if you can see how that'll look, something like that when it's done. But that'll be mounted in right there. Make sure you can see that. All right. And so that'll be a convenient spot. And when I'm doing these modifications on this thing, I've done some on some other amps, and I didn't make it so it was really easy to undo the modification, because some people don't want that. But I figured by putting this here, essentially all the person has to do is, you can pull this out, and the wiring we're going to use down here will just be some, I was thinking I was going to go with the Wagyu type connectors, so that's simple for anybody to undo the connectors to this thing up here and then put it back to where it was wired originally. Now for the wiring itself, to run up here, I wanted to be on the safe side, so I've got one of these universal plug type things like you use on computers, and well, this thing too. So I have plenty of these sitting around, so I thought, well, you know, these are like 16 gauge wires. I don't know if you can see in there or not, but that's a pretty hefty wire. And that'll be what I'm going to use to run up. It'll come out of this bottom base here and come up behind here and then wire into that switch. So it's pretty straightforward. So what I thought we'd do is, I started doing this the other day, and I thought, gosh, I'm sure other people have the same issues. So I thought we'd go ahead and tape this, record it, so if anyone else wants to do it, they can see what I did. Not that it's always the right thing to do, but it's what I did. So first things first, you're going to unplug everything, obviously. And there's a cage that goes over your tubes here, okay? And those will be, you need to take those out. And one thing I've noticed, because I have been inside this thing a couple times, is these screws are kind of small, and they've already stripped out the holes. I don't know if you can see that or not, but the holes where these things screw in, it's already stripped those out. So I think what I want to do is drill these holes out just a little bit and put a little bit bigger screw in there, plus one that doesn't strip the head when you try to unscrew them, because that's, I don't know why they use the cheapest dang screws they can find, but those are already stripped out, and they were stripped out of the woods, and they're teeny little teeny screws. So anyway, so that has to come out, and when I put it back, it'll be a little different, or better screws. For the bottom chassis, so this is where the power tubes are, and I guess a lot of your, I'm not 100% certain why they wanted to do it this way, but it is what it is. So this only has 4 screws, one here, one there in the front, so 2 in the front, and then 1 on each side. Okay, all right, and so that's pretty straightforward. Now to pull this out, you're going to want to pull straight out, and it's a little odd the way it's in there. It kind of makes sense once you see it, but it just knowing that this slides out, that doesn't just pick up and come out. And I've had a problem with it. It grabs the shielding. It's just the shielding tape in here. There, I think I got it. There you go. All right. So when you pull it out, and if you're probably might want to pull the tubes out as well if you're not comfortable with what's going on here. This shouldn't be too invasive, so I feel comfortable doing this. But the bottom chassis is basically sits on here, but it slides out, so we can flip this over so you can see. So those go into these channels on each end. Okay, and you can see I was playing around. I actually tried to do a attenuator. There's a couple of ways you can do attenuators, and one was with going up inside to between the power tubes, and I don't exactly remember what it was, but it's a real common way to do it. I wasn't happy with the way that sounded, so I took that out and replaced. Now see, there goes my tube if I'm not careful, and replaced it with this kind of attenuator, which is, there's a couple of people out there who have done this. It's like a stereo. I don't think it's stereo, but it is a speaker volume. You could use them outside, or in a stereo sounds for your house sound or whatever. And this actually does a pretty good job. So there is some heat generated depending on how much power you're running through there. I haven't had a problem with it. So anyway, so that's a different issue. Okay, so the switch has got 4 poles on it, or 2 sets of 2, I guess is the right way to put it. But what I was going to do is come off the power, the positive, making sure I'm talking about the right one here. That's the one that goes to the fuse. I'll pull that apart, and we'll actually wire the main power switch to this, okay? And then that'll go back down to this thing, and then that'll go through the fuse and everything. So I'm really not changing. I'm just adding a cutoff switch earlier in the flow of the electricity. All right. And then if someone wants to change it back, it'll be real easy for them to. My plan is that I can use these crimp connectors, or Wagyu's what I want to use. So I may have to do something a little different there. But the idea being, you could take out my modification and plug that back in, and you'd have the original configuration. Just another item to note, there is a fuse inside here, so that potentially, which is kind of a drag, so you've got your main power fuse here, so I'm not 100% sure. I'm not an electrician, so I can't explain every bit and piece of this thing. I've already discharged all the capacitors, by the way. So there is a fuse in there, so I'm not sure what that's about. So if your power shuts down on you and this fuse is good, that might be your next culprit to look at. Not very convenient, but that's where it is. All right, well, we'll stop here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drill this out. So my switch will go in there, and I'll probably have to make these holes in here a little bit bigger so my screws can go through. Then we will look at how we want to do this wiring, but I will be putting a hole up through the chassis here somewhere, so I have to just make sure I got plenty of clearance and not hitting those braces on each side. So I might. Okay, we're back from doing some drilling, and I've attached my, I have to use a universal power cord. I don't know what else you'd call these things. I know they have a number. Anyway, so I went ahead and soldered my switch to the black and white wires inside this UPC cable, I'll call it. And that's ready to go. So what the deal is when the wires need to be on top like that. So that's on, and then down is off. So when I mount it in my bracket up here, I need to put these wires on top, which I can't say I love it up there, but I think it'll be fine. I'm going to attach a wire restraint thing to kind of help hold it up there, and then I'll have one more on the side to secure it along the side of the case. All right, let's switch my camera around a little bit here. I'm going to cut this, well, maybe I won't. Okay, we have our switch up here, okay? But nice solid feeling switch. All right, what I want to do next is use one of these cable clamps. I want to secure it at the top, and then I'm going to bring it around and secure it somewhere on the side as well. Okay, well, I want to show you where I got those things in finally. So I got that relief one up there, and plus you can kind of see underneath the cabinet here. I had to put it on its front to get back here and to get on all this stuff. And I brought it around on the side here, just above my label. I didn't want to actually get the label itself, but I got just above the label, so it didn't destroy that. All I've got is a few extra holes in the cabinet. Okay, and that does a pretty good job securing everything up here. I just discovered if you when you pop these off, ta-da, there's actually a plastic. It's a harder plastic, but I think that's better than these metal rings. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll leave those. I'll put the screw back in, and that'll kind of solve some of that. I'm afraid these would rust too over time, and if you hit it on carpet or something, it might leave some marks. Okay. Okay, well, I just realized we weren't recording, so let me just do a quick review of what I just did. So I was checking, so I unplugged just to recap, so I unplugged the hot wire from the switch, okay, and so that's a lug behind this one in the front, all right, and then from there it goes to that lug, which goes to the fuse. It strikes me as odd that they have these two poles like that, but that's just the way they did it, okay. So what we're going to do is have our wire come in, and one side will connect to this guy and go up to the switch, and the other wire will go to the lug over here on the main power switch, and so when this is on, then we can use the switch on top, all right. Now, so the next thing was going to be drilling the hole, so I wanted to kind of see where the hole would be, so I guessed somewhere between the plug input and the fuse, and so I figured right about here, right about there, okay, and it was a pretty clear shot between the transformer and the front of or I guess the back of the chassis here, okay. Then I used a step drill, all right, step drill, to drill a 1/2-inch hole, and it's a 1/2-inch hole because we're going to put our grommet in there, and that's what the grommet calls for. And so I got a 3/8-inch grommet and a 1/4-inch grommet, because that would be the two that 1/4 inch is too tight to get my cable through there, and this is a tad too loose, so it would be nice if I could have got I don't know what that would have been, between a quarter. Oh no, it's tighter with once you get it in there. Okay, that's not bad. Actually, that feels pretty good in there. So it's got plenty of grab. Plenty of grab there. All right, let's see about how long I'm going to need. Okay, well, let's go ahead and clean this wire up here. And you guys can tell me if I'm wrong or not. Or does it go this way? Okay, go nice and strong, plug you in. There you go, that's good. Okay. There we go, okay, now. Okay, use this into the probe to see if anything's going to the fuse. Nothing to the fuse, okay. I'm gonna hit my on switch on top, and there we go. So we got connection. Okay, so if I turn it off down here, it's off again, because that doesn't matter anymore at that point. The one on top. Okay, so I would probably just leave this on all the time on the bottom, okay, because it's certainly off. Then that's my on and off switch now. There you go. And it's on. Okay, well, I think we're safe to put it back together and take it for a spin. Okay, we got everything kind of buttoned back up on this thing, and we'll got the power on at the bottom down here. Okay, so whoops, get the mic out of the way. Got the power on down here, so that's ready to go, all plugged in. So this will be my power I'm going to use from now on. Well, that's the plan at least. And there you go, light comes on. Now, while I've got this out, I'm going to go ahead and just talk about my other mods on this thing that I've done. It's based on pretty much what everyone else has talked about. One was putting the tone circuit up here. I say tone circuit, but the tone pot up here. So I got rid of the bright, what is it, bright and dark switch. So that's just a simple fix, or not a fix, but just a simple modification. The other one here is this attenuator. This is not the best attenuator, but it does work for what I use it for. So I have no problem using it like that. Okay. Okay, so that's clean, and I've got the tone just right in the middle. Then if we, like I said, if we wanted to go to breakup, I'll turn my attenuator, I guess you call it turning it down. I'm not sure the best way to describe it, which way you're going on the attenuator. So that was kind of some good breakup on it. And I don't have the volume very loud in here, which is nice. And that's really what I wanted with the attenuator. The tone gives me, I don't know, it gives me some good tone here. It gives me good tone. It gives me good control. Let me clean that up so you can actually hear it. Okay, so the tone control is really nice because you do get a lot of differences in tone. So that's the main thing, and then with that switch I just put on for the power, that's my main modifications I've done to this thing. So it's an interesting amp. I haven't had a chance to use as much as I like to, just because of that switch on here. It makes a huge difference. So I'm looking forward to getting into this amp more. So actually, I have been using it. I have a 12-string, the Squire 12-string Paranormal, whatever that is. It's electric, and that actually sounds really nice through here. So usually I've been playing through my Ignator, but with this thing I think I'll get some different sounds that I'm looking for. So anyway, appreciate you watching the video. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know and put them in the comments section below. I appreciate you watching this, and if you'd like to, if you would subscribe, would help my channel quite a bit. And I would really like to thank you very much for watching.